Bruce, Larry.
This is Eddie.
So,
So am I live down
I'm on Channel Avenue.
okay. Well, you know the dead end street, when you come down Ocean, and you turn right at the old courthouse, and you go straight to there, there's a big house with 3 garages, that's mine. And I have a little one more, too. I have some little, we bought it about 16 years ago, and then we renovated, we tore it down and redid it. 5 years. We always wanted to be downtown. We were in Sewell's Point and Sewell's Point. And you know, it's nice there. I don't really say it. Being downtown too.
Even with the
Sure. Sure. These jokers give away anything. This board is, oh, I just can't. It's hard for me to. Did you get one of these or if you want one? This one is outside.
called me down from Greg.
Hey Bruce, how you doing, man? Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you.
How about you? Oh,
Speak right into the microphone.
huh? No, I got it.
That's right.
No, he tells me. Here it is. They have no room in one parking. They're gonna put it down behind the car.
Are you ready? Okay. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Chair Campenny,
Here.
Vice Chair Schroth, Board Member Breckbill,
Here.
Board Member Lewis,
Here.
Board Member McChrystal, Board Member Moser. Here.
We have quorum.
Yes.
We can all stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Motion to approve the agenda?
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We have no comments about non-agenda items, do we? Okay. So, first action item is the Creekside Hotel, major urban code conditional use and major development.
Chair,
Chairman,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but could we get the approval of the minutes, please?
We did do the approval of the
He
minutes.
did the approval of the agenda.
Oh, you did the approval of the agenda, okay. Can we
I
do-
make a motion for approval of minutes.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry about that, Susie.
okay.
Okay, before we begin, just a few housekeeping items. If you want to speak, you need to fill out a blue card. You will have 3 minutes. We don't speak back to you. So asking questions are not going to solicit an answer from us. Okay, so we want to hear your comments on what's you want to speak about, but this is not a question and answer. Once you have spoken on an item, you can't speak again on that item. Many of you have spoken many times here, so you all know how it goes. So I just want to make sure everyone understands that it's not that we're ignoring your comment, it's that we do not banter back and forth. Okay, so Creekside Hotel, major urban code conditional use. Chris, you're on.
Good evening, board members. For the record, my name is Chris McCrane, Principal Planner with the Development Department. Tonight, I'll be presenting agenda item number 2 for a major urban code conditional use petition and a concurrent major development plan application for the project to be known as the Creekside Hotel. In accordance with public notice requirements outlined under section 11.02.05 of the Land Development Code, the applicant mailed 40 letters to adjacent property owners located within 300 feet of the subject parcel, providing detail of the requested development and the date and time of tonight's meeting. Additionally, a sign was posted on the property along Southeast Colorado Avenue with this same information. The 1.62 acre vacant parcel is located on within the Royal Palm Financial Center on the west side of Southeast Colorado Avenue, approximately 150 feet south of MLK Junior Boulevard and 200 feet north of Southeast Kindred Street, and it's just south of the Fraser Creek Waterway. The property is also situated within the City of Stewart's community redevelopment area and the Creek District. In 2023, the City Commission adopted the form-based code, which this development is being reviewed under, and the Commission's primary goal when adopting that code was to help encourage infill development and promote the arts and entertainment community within the Creek District. So as mentioned before, the subject parcel is situated next to Fraser Creek here. It is Zone Creek South. The parcels to the north are designated by the Creek North and Urban Waterfront zoning districts, and the parcels to the west are designated by the Urban Center and Urban Neighborhood zoning districts. The subject parcel and all surrounding properties are designated by the Downtown Redevelopment Future Land Use. This land use allows generally for low-density, multifamily density residential, office, commercial, recreation, lodging, public facilities, conservation, and mixed-use developments. For developments situated within the Creek District that are greater than 35,000 square feet in floor area, major development plan approval must be granted by the City Commission as per Land Development Code Section 3.04.01. So the applicant is proposing to construct a 53,600 square foot, 4-story hotel with 102 bedrooms. I believe when I counted it out, it was about 149 beds on the west side of the property. And on the east side of the property, they're proposing to construct a 5,000 square foot detached restaurant and retail building that would front on Southeast Colorado Avenue. Associated site improvements include landscaping, pedestrian connections, refuse collection areas, stormwater and utility improvements, public art, on-site lighting, the installation of 12 electric vehicle charging stations, and a dedicated tram stop. The project also includes sidewalk connections with Colorado Avenue along the entire south and west border, providing a safe and convenient pedestrian route through the site leading to the parking garage from Colorado Avenue and the hotel and restaurant site. The proposed 5,000 square foot restaurant and retail building would be fronting on Southeast Colorado Avenue and provide for future restaurant and retail uses with an outdoor plaza seating area to encourage pedestrian activity along Colorado Avenue. And in the application, it was also mentioned that the outdoor seating area shown on the plan may be intended for public use or as a gathering amenity rather than just for the sole use of the restaurant or retail use. So in addition to the submitted major development plan application, the applicant was required to submit for a major urban code conditional use petition to request relief from certain provisions of the code. In accordance with section 3.01.06 of the urban code, the major urban code conditional use may provide relief from certain provisions, including but not limited to the permitted uses, architectural requirements, location of parking, setbacks, building and structure locations, density, number of stories, and building height. This application is requesting conditional use relief from permitted uses, location of the parking, and architectural requirements. So the first conditional use petition is requesting to utilize the existing parking structure located adjacent to the site in order to meet the required parking standards for the proposed development. According to Land Development Code Section 3.04.03, private parking garages and lots are identified as an allowable use within the Creek South zoning district. However, the code requires conditional use approval from the City Commission. And according to the reciprocal easement agreement between the property owner and the adjacent Royal Palm Financial Center, the owner of any property within the Royal Palm Financial Center shall be permitted to utilize the parking spaces in the parking garage, which is located just to the southwest of the site. The second conditional use petition is requesting to relocate 10 of the 12 required electric vehicle charging stations equipped with, from the existing site to the off-street surface parking lot adjacent to the parking garage. So in accordance with Land Development Code Section 6.01.11, if the site of the principal use and the location of the required parking to serve the principal use are not contiguous, the nearest portion of the property site or parking site must be located within 500 feet of the front entrance of the principal use, as measured by a safe and convenient pedestrian route, including appropriate signage to delineate the route. The code also states that required parking spaces shall not be relocated elsewhere except by a major urban code conditional use. So the existing parking garage and proposed electrical vehicle parking stations are located within 400 feet of the proposed hotel entrance and with approximately 500 feet of the restaurant entrance. As a condition of approval for this development, staff would be requesting the applicant to install bollard lighting along the pedestrian route from the site to the parking garage, as well as ensuring that the parking garage itself is equipped with appropriate lighting and wayfinding signage for safe and convenience. The third conditional use request pertains to the building facade requirements outlined under Land Development Code Section 3.04.04, subsection C. So the proposed height of the hotel is measured at the finished floor elevation is 42 feet 8 inches. with a maximum building height of 57 feet 8 inches as measured at the peak of the pitched roof. Although the maximum allowable building height within the Creek zoning district is 45 feet, the code allows for the peak of a pitched roof to exceed the maximum building height by no more than 15 feet, which would allow for a total building height of 60 feet within the Creek South zoning district. The proposed height of the parapet throughout the hotel building varies between 45 feet 8 inches and 49 feet 1 inch. However, per code, the height of the parapet wall is not considered when calculating the overall building height. The conditional use is required because the Creek District allows a parapet wall to be constructed to conceal the rooftop and equipment on top of the roof, but not at a height greater than 2 feet for more than 40% of the building. So the applicant is requesting to increase that 40% to 48% to allow for proper shielding of all of the electrical equipment. And the final request is pertaining to the thoroughfare elements required for the Creek District. Pursuant to Land Development Code Section 3.04.06, a sidewalk is required to be constructed on both sides of the street. The development plan proposes to install a 6 to 10 foot wide pedestrian pathway along the north side of Southwest A Street, leading from Southeast Colorado. This proposed sidewalk is denoted in yellow on this slide. And then the applicant is requesting relief from constructing the sidewalk on the south side, which is denoted in green, between the shops at Colorado and the proposed development site. The revised traffic impact analysis is currently being reviewed by the City of Stewart's traffic consultant, Kimley Horn and Associates. According to the revised analysis, the proposed development is expected to generate approximately 863 new net trips with 54 a.m. peak hours and 53 p.m. peak hour trips. And prior to scheduling for a public hearing before the City Commission, all of traffic concerns would have to be addressed by our traffic consultants in order to move forward. So staff has reviewed the major development plan for environmental impacts as well and found the development complies with the Land Development Code and comprehensive plan. The property is currently vacant and contains minimal existing vegetation. Of the 41 existing trees, 2 will be removed and 14 will be relocated elsewhere on site. The remaining trees will remain where they are in their current location. And according to the submitted plans, approximately 34% of the site will be preserved as open space, providing for ample landscaping throughout the site. The landscape buffer is also included around the perimeter of the site with a 15-foot wide landscaper along the northern portion of the property. And they also provided additional planting against the wall of the hotel building itself to provide additional shielding. Outdoor flower boxes and articulated retaining walls have been included along the south and east side of the proposed retail and restaurant building. And 23 shade trees will be planted throughout the site along the pedestrian walkways. So shoreline protection at the Fraser Creek waterway will be enhanced by a 29.4-foot setback from the mean high water line, which is approximately 19 feet further than what's required under current code. Currently, under the current code, it requires 10-foot setback within the CRA. So the required setbacks for the building placement within the Creek District are far exceeded, which will allow for additional landscaping and open space, but will also provide greater separation between the proposed development and residential homes and the creek itself. As mentioned earlier, the applicant was required to mail notices to property owners located within 300 feet of the project site. The development department has received 22 total responses, 20 of which were in favor, 1 was not in favor, and 1 had no opinion. Of the 40 mailed notices, only 1 of these responses was received from an adjacent property owner located within 300 feet of the petition site. In addition to public notice responses, the applicant submitted letters of support from the Stewart Main Street Board, Creek District Board, and the Martin County Chamber of Commerce. These can all be found in your agenda packet as well. So in reviewing the application, staff has determined they comply with the standards of review set forth in Land Development Code Section 3.04.00 and 3.01.06, and were found to be consistent with the comprehensive plan's goals, objectives, and policies. Staff is recommending the Community Redevelopment Board forward a recommendation to the City Commission for approval of the Creekside Hotel Major Urban Code Conditional Use and Major Development Plan. And this concludes staff's presentation. The applicants, representatives, and staff are available to answer any questions the board may have.
Okay, do we have
And-
any questions for staff, Mark? Do you have any questions for staff?
I would want to mention that the applicant has prepared a presentation as well, so I don't know if the chair
I'd rather
wants.
ask questions of staff than
Perfect.
have the applicant.
Just a quick question on where this property is situated. The place where it comes over, where Martin Luther King Boulevard is supposed to be extended out off the, originally that was in the city, in the CRA plan. Is that still adjacent to this? Will that be affected by this?
Are you speaking about the right-of-way here above on the map?
No.
Just above the property where Martin Luther King goes through to 7th Street?
Yeah, there was originally in the CRA plan, I believe it's still in there, there's a connection between, that's supposed to come across, and there's supposed to be a kind of like a bridge built there that connects through, and I think that's adjacent to the property up here, isn't it, on the side?
I myself have not heard anything. I mean, I've just recently started with the city, so, I mean, there may be plans in place. The CRA director or would the development director be able to answer that?
Or maybe the city manager.
The city manager?
In 2001, the city commission hired the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council to do a charrette and a big planning for the overlay zones that were ultimately adopted. In that charrette did include a bridge that was going to extend 7th Street or MLK Boulevard over to Channel Avenue, but it was not met with joy. And as a result, it was shelved almost immediately, and there's never been any capital improvement plans or designs since. But Mr. Breckbill is correct. Just a few short 20 years ago, there was a discussion about it.
Time flies when you're having fun. The reason I was kind of asking about that was, first of all, for that development, but second of all, a question about whether the city has any plans. This project is really nice in terms of its interface with Fraser Creek, but my question was whether the city has any plans to do any work on there. We've done a lot of work, I think, in other areas in terms of runoff and finding ways to make that more accessible and aesthetic. I'm just wondering if there's any plans to do anything along with this project from a city standpoint to enhance the Fraser Creek aspect of it. Nature walk, anything like that.
Yeah, and not with this plan, there is not. I mean, if you'd like, city staff can take that and make that recommendation to the city commission at a later
I
date
think
and
at
point.
some point we can discuss that at a future.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Okay.
As far as
that's-
this,
That's it?
as far as this development's concerned, it's not part of the development plan.
Okay.
Chris?
I have a question for Ms. Patel. Can I
Well,
rule that
not
out?
yet. We'll have Patel come up.
All right, well, I'll save my comments until
Okay.
after public.
I just wanted to know if you could review conditional use number 4 again about the sidewalks. I just want to make sure I'm understanding you.
So the Creek District Code requires that, and although this is not a public right-of-way, this is considered more of a driveway private easement, whereas Colorado would be the public right-of-way. But the code requires that on both sides of the thoroughfare, that a sidewalk is constructed. So we would be considering Southwest A Street as the thoroughfare, and the applicant is requesting to only construct the sidewalk on the north side to allow the shops at Colorado to remain as it is.
Okay, thank you.
Because there's a couple driveways you can see on this slide. It might be a little bit difficult, but just below the A and just to the west of Southwest, there's two driveway entrances into that existing plaza. So,
Okay. And if I understand correctly, there are trees currently on the
correct.
south
So
side.
if I can go to an aerial. It's kind of difficult to see. Let's see if I can zoom in somehow. But you can see that there are trees on the south side right down here.
And the plan will maintain those trees?
The plan will maintain those. These are on this property.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm going to save my questions till the applicant, so if there's nothing else for staff, let's have the applicant come up.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Daniel Sorrow with the land planning firm of Kotler and Hearing. Staff did a great presentation. Mr. McCrane, great addition to the City of Stewart planning staff. On behalf of Mr. Patel, before Ms. Nobby comes up and makes the presentation, just wanted to remind this board of a couple key points on this project. The site is vacant. It's been vacant ever since, God created the earth. It will be developed. I think the question before you is, what is the appropriate use for this particular vacant piece of property? There were a number of proposals that have been made to the city over the years. Those have kind of died on the vine. We feel that this project with the hotel and the retail use is what's appropriate for downtown Stewart. It provides a lot of benefit to the residents and the future visitors of this site. So thank you very much. We'll be here to answer any questions you may have.
Good afternoon, members of the Community Redevelopment Board and city staff. My name is Jenna Nobby with the land planning firm of Kotler and Hearing, representing the applicant this evening for our exciting new project known as Creekside Hotel and Retail. I'd like to take a minute to introduce our project team that have all worked very hard to get us to this point today. The applicant this evening is Raj Patel. The landscape architects and planners are Daniel Sorrow, Jenna Nobby, and Thea Bergerson with Kotler and Hearing. Our civil engineers are Jacob McClellan and Darren Gettler with Velcon Engineering and Surveying. Our architect is Thomas Adams with Harder Adams PA. Our environmental consultant is Drew Gatewood with Advanced Restoration Ecology, and our traffic engineer is Susan O'Rourke with O'Rourke Engineering and Planning. Chris did a really great job with his presentation, and he was very thorough, so all of this will be supplemental to what he's already presented about. But a general overview for the site, it's 1.62 acres, has a future land use of downtown, zoning of Creek District South. It's located within the CRA of the City of Stewart. And the request before you this evening is for a proposed 4-story Hilton hotel with an accompanying retail and restaurant building. This hotel will have 102 rooms, and it's anticipated that the 5,000 square foot building adjacent to it will be split with 2,500 square feet of retail and 2,500 square feet for the restaurant. In order to achieve our project, we have 2 applications, the major development plan and the major conditional use permit. This image here shows the location of the project site in the context of downtown. So it's directly off of Colorado Avenue. It has Fraser Creek running along its northeast boundary. It is north of Canner Highway and US 1 and a few blocks south of Confusion Corner. So right in the heart of downtown, one of the first pieces of property that you see when you're driving into downtown from Colorado Avenue. This image here, as Dan mentioned, shows the existing conditions. It's currently vacant, has some temporary parking that is on the site, and in the bottom left corner, you can see that existing parking garage that we are proposing to use for this project. So the first application we'd submitted is the site plan application for this 102-room Hilton Hotel and this adjacent retail and restaurant building. This site will include a public plaza, decorative pavers, landscaping, and electric vehicle charging, as well as all of the improvements in infrastructure that go along with this development. This project site is already zoned for commercial development. There is no rezoning request before you this evening. It is purely with the Creek South zoning, and just goes to show that the zoning and the land use encourages this type of development. The site's also located adjacent to Colorado Avenue and US 1, which, as we all know, are important commercial corridors within Stewart. So we feel that this is the perfect location for this type of project with a really nice new hotel. This is a rendered version of our site plan that was submitted to the city for review. Some notable features with this include that public plaza that is adjacent to Colorado Avenue, a really great gathering space and an amenity that will attract a lot of pedestrian activity to the site. Then we have the retail and the hotel buildings, and then in that southwest corner near the parking garage, we have our proposed paver design that will be part of the public art we are including in the project. So the next application with that major conditional use has 4 requests. The first is to utilize the existing parking garage that's adjacent to the site. The second is to locate the electric vehicle charging to the existing surface parking that's next to the garage. The third is to allow the 8% overage in parapet height of the hotel facade. And the fourth is to allow the construction of 1 sidewalk on the north side of Southwest A Street instead of the 2 sidewalks. This graphic here shows the proximity of this existing parking garage and those EV spaces to the current property. We're very fortunate to have this garage located just steps away from the project site, and we have that easement that Chris mentioned that allows us to have access to this parking garage. The parking study that we submitted as part of our major development plan application demonstrates that the parking garage is underutilized and has capacity to park the proposed project before you this evening. And then just south of the parking garage, south of that retention pond, is the location of the electric vehicle sites. This image here shows the waiver request for the 1 sidewalk versus the 2 on Southwest A Street. So you can see that the landscaped median is what is still within our property boundary, but there are currently shade trees there. They provide shade for Southwest A Street, and with the existing, or with the proposed sidewalks and connections that we're going to have on our project site, we feel that putting in the second sidewalk where those trees currently exist would not serve the community as well as enhancing that landscaped area, which we propose with our landscape plan. And we feel that keeping this green space in the pervious area is a better use versus taking those trees out and adding in an additional sidewalk. Some of the highlights to the site plan that I wanted to touch on this evening include the ways that we have incorporated low-impact design features into the overall project design. The first being permeable pavers that we are proposing for the plaza area, the sidewalks, and the parking stalls on site. These will help with the treatment and management of stormwater and drainage on the project site. Going with that is the enhanced landscaping that we are proposing, again, pervious area to treat and manage stormwater on the project site. Next one is the preservation of the existing shade trees that are along Colorado Avenue. From the very beginning, we knew that we wanted to keep these mature oak trees in their current location, and we told our engineers to make it work, and we are proposing to build the retaining wall around those trees, keep them in their current location because we know the value that they add to this streetscape. And the next big one is the utilization of this existing parking infrastructure. So this is a perfect example of really smart planning when you can concentrate development where infrastructure currently exists that will support that development. We're very fortunate with this project site to have that garage next to it, and through using the garage and not having to dedicate half of our site purely to park cars, we're able to reduce the heat island effect that comes with building a lot of hardscape and reduce the amount of hardscape that we build. This image here shows the ways that we've proposed to put the retaining wall around those existing oak trees. They provide shade for the plaza area as well as the sidewalk on Colorado Avenue, depending on the time of day. And this area is also where we're proposing the mural for our public art component to be. We feel that the high visibility of this retaining wall along Colorado Avenue is a great place to commission a local artist to complete this mural. This image here, you can see the retail building next to the hotel. The architecture is consistent between the two to make them feel cohesive. And this image just gives a great example of the inviting and attractive streetscape that we're proposing to build with this project. You can see the sidewalk with all that additional landscaping, those shade trees for that sidewalk with the outcroppings on the retaining wall. And we feel that this would be a really inviting project as one of the first properties that you see as you're driving down Colorado Avenue. This project will provide a lot of benefits to the city of Stuart, and the first of which being it'll provide downtown Stuart with a nationally recognized hotel brand that will inevitably promote tourism in the area. One thing that we've heard from a lot of residents is that when they have family and friends coming to visit them in town, there's not a great selection of hotels in the area for them to stay at. So we feel that this project with the True by Hilton Hotel that we're proposing right in the heart of downtown will be the perfect place for people to stay while they're visiting, and it'll show them all the great things about Stuart that make it so unique. The next, it'll stimulate economic activity through providing jobs, first and foremost, all the construction workers that go into building a project of this scale, as well as the full-time staff for the hotel and the retail and the restaurant uses, and all the maintenance workers that will be coming in on a consistent basis to ensure that everything is running properly. The next, it'll add new customer bases for the local businesses in the surrounding area. All the guests that are going to be staying at the hotel will be visiting these local businesses and, of course, spending their money and helping boost the economy in this area. And hand in hand with that is encouraging consumer spending in the community. It's been shown that when people are on vacation, they tend to spend more money. So we feel that having this accommodations in downtown Stuart with this new place for people to stay will encourage people to spend a little more in downtown, and of course, everyone will benefit from that. The next, as Chris mentioned, we are proposing a tram stop at the front of the hotel underneath the porte-cochere, and this will promote alternate modes of transportation to downtown. Parking is a little limited down here, so we want to have this tram as a really wonderful amenity that's already in place and expand this existing network, have an additional stop out front of the hotel, and give the tram some more visibility and some more business. And lastly, it'll enhance the character of the Creek District with the public art that we are proposing. So we're very fortunate with this site to be located in the Arts and Entertainment District of Stuart, and we really want to be an active part of that and play into it, first and foremost with the public art that we are proposing. This image here shows a better view of the public plaza area with those oak trees and those seat walls in the retaining wall. Again, just a great visual coming off of Colorado Avenue, visiting Stuart for the first time, and this is what you see. This image here is a better visual of the proposed paver design that's in the sidewalk. This would be the view if you have just parked your car at the parking garage and you're coming to check into the hotel. Of course, Stuart is known as the sailfish capital of the world, so wanted to play into that a little bit. And then we have the downtown Stuart tram there, just picking some people up from the porte-cochere and taking them to have some dinner downtown. So we met early on with a lot of local organizations to engage with them and get their support for our project, being the Creek District Board of Directors, Stuart Main Street, and the Martin County Stuart Chamber of Commerce. And this project will become an important part of the Creek District neighborhood, with encouraging that arts and entertainment in many ways and becoming an active member of the community. We really want to become part of the partnership with this neighborhood. And touching on the form-based code that was passed back in February, this is one of the first projects to come forward with this new code, and we really want to set the standard and be the example for what this code is intended to be. The main way that we did that was through the architecture, because we knew that the architecture is super important to the character of a community, and it was integral to the success of this project. So we went through many revisions to make the accent colors of the building very coastal, adding those wood finishes in, and making it quote-unquote creaky feeling. This image here shows the ways that we have really highlighted the architecture of the building. You can see those muted earth tones, the pastel colors on those accent stripes on the west side, and the wood finishes. The pitched roofs are typical of coastal architecture, so this is not typical for a Hilton brand, but we knew that it was important to make this fit in with the current neighborhood. And our project team held a community meeting back in March of 2023 with surrounding residents and businesses. We wanted to engage early on in the process with our neighbors and get some of their feedback so that we could use that to guide the design moving forward. And even before this meeting, we had them in mind with the design of the project. Some of the ways that we had them in mind were the enhanced landscape buffer at the northern boundary. We're proposing to plant additional plant material in area that's owned by the city that's currently kind of no man's land as a way to provide an additional buffer from our project to these residences. There are no guest room windows that are directly overlooking the homes. All of the floor plans have the guest windows facing east and west and none that are looking north. So just a way that we were trying to be thoughtful from the very beginning as far as the guest windows. And we've concentrated a lot of the activity along Colorado Avenue and the south portion of Southwest A Street. So the north boundary of the site is the closest proximity to this neighborhood. It's only proposed up there as far as a service entrance and no main entrances for any patrons to the retail and restaurant or guests of the hotel. And based on the feedback that we received from this meeting, there were a number of design elements that were revised, and they've been incorporated into the final design that you see today, including the architecture, landscaping, and the drainage for the site. So the applicant requests a favorable recommendation of approval to City Commission for both the major development plan and major conditional use applications. We agree with staff's recommendation of these same approvals, and we are here to answer any questions that you may have about our project, and thank you for your time this evening.
You can stand up there if you want to answer the questions. Go ahead, Bonnie. You're fine?
I'm good for now, yeah.
Chris?
Okay, yeah, I have a couple questions. How are you today?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad. Full disclosure with everybody, we had an opportunity to meet with the applicants prior to our meeting, so we had an opportunity to go over some of the questions already. So some of the reasons why you're not hearing us ask some questions is because we already had some of them answered. With that being said, at the time of our meeting, I was not really familiar with the True Hilton brand. Doing a little homework, I noticed that we have some in the area, like in Tradition, and I guess other areas around the Treasure Coast. Could you talk a little bit about the brand, the True Hilton brand, what we would expect, of the type of hotel that would be there? Is it like, if I go into one, am I going into, the same one no matter where I go to? Is it going to be unique to our area? I know you tried to make some design elements, automatically unique to our area. Does that carry over inside? I did look at some other areas and some bedrooms and things like that online, and, I liked them, but I was just curious, because again, I don't know anything about the brand, and so if you can speak a little bit to that, may be helpful.
Mr. Patel, do you want to answer that? Because you can't even contain yourself.
Yeah.
No, I
Oh, okay.
respect that. It's up to you. I don't
Yeah, I think I could take this. So absolutely, great question. The main design element at this stage that we have completely modified to be unique to Stewart is the exterior, the elevations and everything. That's not to say that when we go in for permitting and do some of the interior work that we can't make it unique, because there's definitely that possibility, and we want it to be characteristic of the area and fit in. So I think for the interior, there's a specific standard that Hilton has that it always maintains as far as levels of cleanliness and customer service. But we have our general floor plans that we've laid out that are part of the application, and the exterior was what we really focused on to make it unique to this area. Do you have anything? Yeah.
That's all right.
Please say your name.
Just say your name for the record.
My name is Raj Patel. I'm the person that's borrowing the money to do this deal. So I just wanted to let our neighbors.
No, please speak to the
Oh,
board.
sorry. I just wanted to let our neighbors know that we put a lot of attention into this project from the day we met them back in March. And I took every single person's ideas and suggestions in mind. I didn't discount any of it at all. If I had it my way, I would put a rooftop bar and there'll be a party going on in the next half hour. So, but we're not doing that. We're not doing that because this is a hotel that Hilton cherishes. Hilton feels they'll do very well. When Hilton came up with the True brand, they looked at this brand as a fresh, new, clean concept that is modern for tech-savvy people, millennials, which I don't know the age group, but I think if I looked it up, it's in around the late 20s or 30s and the mid-40s. But I have one hotel in Tradition, the True brand, and I have to say we have people of all ranges coming there, people that are in the 80s, people that are young. They have a great time. We don't have noise issues. Everybody that comes to this hotel, all they want is to have a good night's rest in an environment that they feel is up to standard. And coming back to your question about unique ability of each hotel, first and foremost, this would be the one hotel that Hilton has allowed to deviate from its standard prototype. Basically, they told me, this is the heads of Hilton, that Raj, whatever it takes, we want to be in Stewart. So we'll do what it takes. I said, thank you very much. Each hotel will be substantially different, especially this one, because we have the pool, we have a larger fitness center, we have a much bigger lobby with a lot of activity that happens downstairs. But if anyone thinks that it's for a very young group, it's not. It's absolutely not, because this is a project that's going to be, it's going to be costing a lot of money, and the numerics don't work to have a low rate. It just doesn't work. And I mean, I would have put a Waldorf Astoria or a Four Seasons, but you can't do that because we have a 4-story height limit. We have issues with size. And if anybody thinks that we can put a really high-end boutique hotel, I don't think it's going to make money because of the density rules. It just doesn't work, which is good. We want to live in a town that is unique, and this is what it's going to bring. And so before I forget, one important part of this lobby is that there'll be one wall dedicated, approximately 75% of the wall that's behind you that'll showcase Stewart. I will sit down with everybody that has got knowledge of Stewart and ask them for the suggestions, and a unique mural will be built inside the wall, inside the hotel, where everyone can come in and see. That will basically tell you what Stewart is about, and that'll be one wall dedicated to the city of Stewart.
Yeah, one more follow-up question for you.
Sure.
And I know that there's a detached spot was for retail and a restaurant, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
What type of restaurants are you thinking? You thinking of a burger place? Are you thinking more high-end?
No,
Are you thinking
no.
of a steak? You know?
We want to bring uniqueness. We don't want to have this sports bar type of thing, even though sports bar is most likely to succeed through ups and downs, and we don't mind. We know what Stewart is about. We've seen what Stewart is. I've lived in Palm City for over 20 years. I've owned businesses in Stewart. I own the Little Civitas building, which Pepe and Sale is, and that's a tenant that I found. He came to me and he says, Raj, I want to build a unique spot. Can you give this place to me? I said, but it's got to be original. He says, I will make it original. And based on a handshake, he created a wonderful spot. So my vision is to have this restaurant to be something where people can enjoy the indoors and outdoors of a restaurant with a bar. And I had somebody that wants to open up a Barcelona-style tapas bar and restaurant. And I said, hey, let's do it. I just don't want any noise. I don't want anybody to disturb my guests at my hotel. And we put all that in writing, and hey, let's do it. And then there's a retail component. I would like to bring something that's unique to downtown. We're not looking for any formula-style business that's all across the country. No, we want something that people can enjoy. And also, of course, the tenant has to make money. So,
Anything else, Chris?
Nothing else, thank you.
thank
Mark?
you.
Good.
Did it, so maybe it's probably going to be one of the planners. Tell me about this garage and how you're doing it, because I'm a little confused.
So there is an existing reciprocal easement agreement between our property and the adjacent Royal Palm Financial Center that was executed in 2010, I want to say, so it's been established. But this easement allows us to use the parking garage. There's no specific allocation of parking spots. It purely states that we are able to use this parking garage. So we submitted a parking study back in May of this past year. Counts were done at different times of day, and this study demonstrated that there is adequate capacity in this garage to park our project.
How many spaces are in the garage?
217.
And how many spaces, or how many people or how many offices are at the other buildings?
There, within the whole financial center plaza, there is all of the surface parking, and then each of those individual office buildings have below-ground garages. Our easement does not allow us to use those below-ground garages, but it allows us to use the surface parking and this garage. And with the location, we're proposing the garage for our project.
Okay. Having seen this garage, it's rarely used, from what I can see at least. Okay. Tell me about the drainage. I'm really sort of leery about that back section, and I've seen it hold lots of water when we've had rain, not regular rain, but when we've had a good storm. How are we going to handle that drainage situation?
Right. Our site plan proposes underground storm chamber systems as part of the way to manage the stormwater on site. I have Jacob McClellan here with Belcon Engineering, and he submitted a stormwater and drainage report as part of our major development plan application. So this report models the specific storm events that are required by City of Stuart and South Florida Water Management District, and CapTech, the engineering reviewers for City of Stuart, did not have any comments for our report and were agreeable to what we're proposing as far as drainage and our stormwater management system for the site.
Did you want to add anything?
No, unless you have any more specific questions about the drainage system, I can answer anything you might have. But we're following all City of Stuart criteria, all South Florida Water Management District criteria, and still maintaining the discharge from the adjacent site.
Because on the drainage calcs, on your report, and it's probably just a typo, but it says the proposed improvements for the project include the construction of a three-story hotel and a single-story restaurant with associated paved parking. So that obviously is not correct because your site is bigger than that.
I think it was a typo in reference to the three-story or four-story of the hotel, but all of the data in terms of square footages is correct.
Okay. And there's also a note in red that I don't understand because I'm not an engineer. It says, please note that greater of the two volumes, either 150% of the site for an impaired basin or nutrient loading control of the volume of chamber system that has been provided. For this project, the nutrient loading volume of .610 AC acre feet is greater than the 150% of the water quality treatment volume of .140 acre feet. So that is the volume that has been used as the controlling retention volume. What the hell does that mean?
So basically, the St. Lucie River is an impaired basin, so you need to provide an additional 50% on top of what's required. But the greater of the two would be the nutrient removal efficiencies demonstrated in the BMP trains model, which show the nitrogen and phosphorus removal rates that are required. The nitrogen and phosphorus removal rates exceed that of the 150% of South Florida Water Management District. So instead of holding back the 0.3 or 0.4 acres of water as required by South Florida, we're holding back even more so up to that 0.6 or 0.7 to meet the nitrogen and phosphorus removal efficiencies, which are required as well.
Okay. So, for staff, is there a report from Public Works regarding any of this?
The Public Works Department has reviewed the utility plan. We're pending a final utility plan, which Jacob is actually working on, and we'll be resubmitting next week. Prior to us going to any public hearing before the City Commission, all comments have to be addressed, as I mentioned earlier.
And I also noticed that we don't have our own parking study, do we?
Our own parking study? We
To
have,
verify that it
the
was,
city has not completed a parking study, nor do I believe we don't
well,
usually do that.
don't we usually take their numbers and give it to either,
Kimley Horn has been reviewing the parking and the traffic for this.
do we have it yet?
We should have it should be in the agenda packet now.
I'm asking, I didn't see it, but if you're telling me it's there.
It should be in the agenda
And
packet.
they have said that it was acceptable, that's what I'm asking.
Kimley Horn is not yet signed off on the traffic as stated in the presentation, so we are waiting for Kimley Horn to give us
So
the
why is
sign
this
off.
before us if the packet isn't complete?
This is simply the stage we're just talking with the CRB to give any recommendations for moving forward to the final approvals at the City Commission. No applications will be brought to the City Commission until they have been completed by staff and our consultants.
But aren't we supposed to review an entire packet that is going to the city commission, and then we make our recommendations to the city commission? This is not ready for prime time, and I would hate to hold these people up because you schedule something with this board, and it is not ready to go forward.
Chair, there has nothing been held up by staff. We are still waiting on the applicants to address their comments, and we were simply trying to get ahead of the game and get informed of the CRB so we can meet the December meeting, because there is no late December meeting, so it'll be pushed a whole nother month to January. So that was the intent behind scheduling for this CRB meeting.
If I may, sir, about your specific question regarding the parking study, we did submit that back in May with our first
I don't
submittal.
have a problem with anything you're doing. I have a problem with not having a complete packet before the board so that the board can make proper recommendations to the city commission. That's my problem. Not a problem with what you've done at all.
Understood. The parking study was reviewed by Kimley Horn. They did not have any comments that, anything. So they reviewed it, verified, and did not have any comments about parking.
Okay. All right, we'll take public comment unless someone else has a question. Mr. Moritz, am I saying that? I can't hardly read that, yeah.
Bert Mounts.
Sorry. You have to speak into, okay. Thank you.
You're kidding, huh? Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Bert Mounts. I live on Fraser Creek. This piece of property is entirely visible from my mailbox. I would like to call to your attention that a number of my neighbors, all of whom are fronting on this property or immediately adjacent, are here today. We are very interested in this project and its immediate impact on our neighborhood. My background, by the way, is I'm a retired architect. Couple of comments. The parking garage that you intend to use has no elevator and is not connected to it's not adjacent to the hotel. We have a rainy climate. That dotted line that connects the parking garage to your site, that's got to have a canopy. That's got to be improved. Now, I obviously have a bias towards,
Please speak into the microphone.
I'm not loud enough?
Well, why don't you let him hold it, and then he can turn around and speak to us.
Can I do this?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Turn around to us so we can see all your thick face. And your, there we go.
I attended that March presentation and was quite disappointed by the drawings and expressed some concern that this is an upmarket neighborhood, and we don't want a stark economy building. Give us the quality, give us the amenities, make this attractive, please. I was also concerned about the cascading stairs from the plaza down to Colorado, obviously for obvious reasons. And then I had one more question. Will the restaurant have a bar?
There is, questions are not to make statements. You can talk to him offline.
That's who I'm asking.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Seth Owens.
Seth Owens of Stuart, Florida, 34994. Previously on the Community Redevelopment Board, relieved of my duties as of yesterday. So I was able to meet with the planners and with the people that brought this forward. Just a little bit of background on myself. My family's been here for generations. My grandfather, Bill Owens, was chairman of the board for Martin County that championed and chaired the 4-story limitations. So the uniqueness and the quaintness of what makes Stuart very unique is very important to me, and it's always been important to my family and generations of family and friends that have lived here for a long time. I think that this project is tastefully done. I think that they have gone in and done a lot of planning and a lot of research, and they have listened to the community members. You're never going to get 100% agreement on anything. I think that's very noticeable in today's world. Sometimes even 50-50 is pretty good. I think you saw the favorability just within the 22 responses. You had 20 in favor, 1 not in favor, and 1 no opinion. The local small businesses that my family, for many years and many generations, they were here doing that as well. And this is going to impact it, I believe, in a very positive manner, to be able to bring a lot of business to the downtown area that has a lot of boutique shops, a lot of restaurants. There's a music venue there at Terra Firmata that brings in a lot of great opportunities. And I think that this is a chance for Stuart and for the downtown area for everybody to come up. I believe that this is a very synergistic approach to it, where it's not just they're thinking about themselves. I think they are thinking about the entire community as well. They talked to the Reedy Creek District, they talked to Main Street. There's going to be art involved. The restaurant is going to be done very well. I'm sure there's going to be a great bar that's going to offer, really good opportunities and not be something that is loud, that is bright, that is obnoxious. I think that they're going to do things with very good intent. And I am just here today to show my favorability towards it. And I think if given a chance that this is going to be something that'll bring in a lot of business to the downtown area and to all the adjacent businesses with very low impact on the communities themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Dennis Steelmore.
Sir, I was speaking on the other issue.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yes, I'm sorry. You are. Okay, Tracy Barnes.
Hi, Tracy Barnes, 617 Southwest Channel Avenue. You know, I'm always concerned about the same things. We are always seem to be in the middle of things that turn out to be what they're not supposed to be, with rezoning, with 603, with music, 603 US 1, music being louder than it's supposed to be, just things are passed through and turn into something obnoxious or, you know, sometimes untenable. But as far as the restaurant, it states that it's a patio cafe intended to be for public use as a gathering amenity rather than a sole use of a potential restaurant cafe. So I don't know if that is separate from a restaurant bar that they're talking about. I would appreciate definitely not, you know, a rooftop bar, which he already said was not an issue. The noise from a bar is, you know, unless you live right there, you just have no idea, speaking of terra firmata, what it does right through your doors of your house where you have to turn up your TV to try to drown it out. Parking, we've already discussed parking and how that garage is going to handle the office buildings, the shops on Colorado, a hotel that's full, and shopping area. Always concerned about the water. The other day, there were literally 2 waterfalls coming from Colorado onto the property, and we were, you know, a foot deep in the water. I don't still understand how the elevation changes and our neighborhood doesn't flood. When there's a hurricane and this wasn't a hurricane, this was those 2 storms like a few weeks ago, it fills, and I just will always question whether it's going to run right down into our neighborhood and flood us out, because we are, you know, a little bit less. The traffic through the neighborhood is always a problem. In our meeting, they said they might not even need our neighborhood, or they wouldn't even need our neighborhood. He was, talked about it going out Colorado and going out US 1. And we're gonna talk about the whole thing that happened with the dog kennel and how the traffic was gonna come in and come out on that little road by Fruits and Roots. What else? When she said creaky, I feel a lot of people have not walked back there to see what Fraser Creek actually looks like. It's not going to have room for a nature walk. It's not going to smell good all the time.
Thank you, Chris.
And that's it, other than I wish it was 3 stories. 4-story hotel, I feel just doesn't fit.
Kurt Mullengraft.
That's okay. Thank you, Raj.
Good evening. Kurt Mullengard, McPherson Street, Stewart. I spoke to our city manager, David Dias, before about this parking situation over there, and he assured me that there was going to be a city count on how much the buildings over there, the financial centers, needed for parking, also how much the shops on Colorado needed for parking. There is no parking that I know about that's there. And Bert made a good point there about not having an elevator in there, so there's no ADA compliant parking garage over there. The other reason it's underutilized, and maybe you guys should go over there and have a look at it, especially walking in the evening, it's creepy. It's creepy, and there's creeps that are hanging out in there. There's nobody going to want to go to that hotel and say, oh, well, you park over there in that garage, and they go over to that garage where it's creepy. And we have situations coming up in our neighborhood now because of things that have been approved by this city, like the 603 place, like the 603 place, Terra Firmata. I could go back there. We've been fighting that battle forever, but I'm still calling the cops on that because it's still over loud. But that's the traffic. Where are they going to go? We're going to have another hotel on US 1 over where the funeral home is, and they're going to use Channel Avenue for cutting through. It's going to be a nightmare for our little neighborhood that's been there for generations. It's going to be a nightmare for people. You can't even get out on Colorado right now. You can't get out there. They've already taken the parking places from Fruits and Roots and that place over there. This hotel is too big. It's just too high. And when we had that public meeting I spoke about it. I walked out. We didn't even have a conversation because they were just set there. See, he told me they won't let us build it unless it's got this many rooms in it, it generates this much money. That's not our problem. You got a whole neighborhood full of residents that have been there forever. I've been living in my home for 30 years now. I've lived in Stewart since 1972, and I grew up in Jupiter. I've seen this place get Browardized in the last 6 months, more than, or 2 or 3 years, even back 20 years ago when we were talking about that bridge there, and we pulled the plug on that. It's just, you guys are wrecking Stewart. You're wrecking it. It's not what it was meant to be. I know everybody thinks that things are going to evolve, but we got to have a place, the happiest seaside town. Let's see, come around our neighborhood and ask, how happy are all we? The pervious stuff doesn't work. It has to be maintained. It has to be vacuum cleaned. And they did it on 6th Street when they redid 6th Street, and it just runs right down the street and right into the creek. You cannot keep the pervious concrete without it filling up with debris and sand and everything else. It has to be maintained. No one tells anybody about that. Over in Avonlea where they have the storage buildings over there, it's all plugged up.
Thank you, Kurt. Michael Jackin.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Michael Jacquin. With the board members that are absent, I know you have a quorum, just have the meeting, but what is the vote? Just curious. I know you're not allowed to answer questions, but I don't know if it was 3-1 or all 4 have to vote for it today. I'm not sure. Elevation of the property, obviously, is going to get raised as a part of the process and so forth. So some of the water that's standing in there now won't be in the future just because of that. The parking is going to have valet. It wasn't mentioned in the presentations, so that's going to help out. I'm sure that if the ADA requirements for the garage is needed, I'm sure that's something that could be addressed. Big thing with Hilton, I mean, don't let that be understated. You've got a national company allowing for a one-off right here locally. That's awesome. The other thing, too, is I know that we were talking about 4 particular items. With any kind of development as you go forward, you have to check all the boxes with South Florida, Public Works, so forth and so on. So I appreciate the comments, but at the end of the day, I think the only thing that we're trying to get accomplished today is the 4 items. I don't know, but that's what I perceive based on what I heard. So may want to circle the wagon on that. Lastly, this is the most important one. I know Raj Patel personally, and I work with other developers. I'm a contractor. We built Palm City Elementary. You know, we're very proud contractors. We try to always use local help. On that particular job, probably about 90% was local workforce. So that we try to make sure that we're reinvesting all those dollars here locally. But back to Raj specifically, you have somebody here that's local, lives in the area and trying to do something. Cannot be understated. You have a lot of people that are coming from out of town. He has a vested interest, as everybody else in this room, to see a really good, positive project. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone online? No, sir. Okay, does anybody else want to speak on this matter? All right, seeing none, it comes back to the board. So, Mark,
I'll move for approval.
okay? Is there a second for discussion?
I'll second for purpose of discussion.
Okay? Who wants to discuss?
I just had a couple things. One, I understand what, on the public comment, and I think it's very valid, but, you know, understanding the economics of the situation, if Stewart's going to have a hotel, it's going to be 4 stories. And I'm surprised Hilton would commit. So I'm really surprised they would commit to a small hotel like this. That's a very difficult process, and I think it's kind of a coup to get a hotel like that. And so I think that's one of the things. The other thing is I hope that, and I know with Raj being, you know, local, and hopefully we'll get some sort of a public-private partnership going with being part of the Creek District and maybe adding some features that are part of the Creek District, some more artsy things that will allow that. And then the last thing is I really would like to see the city, and I don't want to see the developer. Too many times in the city of Stewart here, we make the developer do all this stuff. And you know, they're just trying to make a profit, and sometimes that they're barely making it anyway. But I would like to see the city put more effort into cleaning up Fraser Creek and making it, you know, making some improvements to it. And if we can do something in connection with the construction or with the hotel, I'd like to see some of that happen. But anyway, that's.
Do you want to add anything? Bonnie?
I don't think think so, no.
Okay. So we have, your motion has those 4 items, conditions. And though it says in the agenda item, I'd like to make sure that we have all the reports, which is by Monday, which is less than a week, that are missing from this packet that we have. That the commission has all those for it to go forward. Would you make that part of your motion?
Sure, I'll amend it to that.
And before we vote, I'm just going to say, if you're bringing a packet to this board, I'm not going to hold them up today, but I have tabled things before, like 603, when we had incomplete packets. And I think we need to have an entire packet. Otherwise, just go to the commission. You don't need a board. So it really upsets me that we don't have a complete packet, and I hope the commission, I see a commissioner, I hope he takes that under advisement. Okay? You want to say something?
Yeah, quick comment, just before. So as I stated before, I had an opportunity to meet with the applicant beforehand, so they pretty much answered most of my questions. We talked about the trees, we talked about the drainage, we talked about parking, what the building was going to be like, as far as all the variances that they're asking for today. For the most part, I was okay with everything, with what was being asked for. The main question in me was dealing with the hotel. Is this the right thing for the area and whatnot? I left the meeting positive, after talking to Mr. Patel, but as I told him, I wanted to hear from the community. We know the Fraser Creek community is a very passionate community. We always get them here and let us know exactly how they feel. I expected that Mr. Patel probably spoke with them prior, and he let me know certain things and how he took things into account. For example, I believe there's no rooms that are facing any of the backyards of any of the landowners around, if I recall one of the statements that he made to me. Luckily, I'm lucky enough that my wife hasn't divorced me yet, and we celebrated our anniversary this past weekend. I was able to go down to Delray. We stayed at a 4-story hotel down there. It did have a rooftop bar, but we stayed at a four-story hotel down there, and we were able to go ahead on Friday, park there, and I didn't have to get back in the car the whole time. I was able to go out. We went to dinner. We went to lunch the next day. I got a chance to watch the football game over, downtown. We had a great time, and it was impossible for me not to imagine the same thing in Stuart. Being able to go ahead, park somewhere downtown at a nice hotel, being able to go downtown, walk downtown. We actually ate at the hotel. The hotel that we stayed at had an attached restaurant aside. And again, it was hard not to see the parallels of what could be. So the question for me was, would this fit here? Now, and I believe Mr. Patel hit it right. The hotel we were staying at was a boutique hotel. I don't, in a perfect world, I think that would be great. I don't know if it'll work right in that location, as he said. I think it's important to have good housing, good hotel, but also something affordable, something everybody can enjoy, and it seems to be that's what they're trying to present here. So I just wanted to make a comment before we went, and I know everybody talked, and I just don't like voting without letting people know what I think about the project. With that said, I'm ready to vote.
I also spoke with Mr. Patel. We met in City Hall, and I've owned hotels. I think some of you know that, and I've spoken to Mr. Patel. I think he's going to be a very good operator. I do have those 2 worries that I expressed, and I'm hoping that the commission will have the information they need to verify what's going to happen with Mr. Patel's hotel. And I do have the same worry as someone did about walking in the rain from the garage, but that's a business decision. That's not a CRB decision or a city decision. That's a business decision. And if he goes bankrupt, he goes bankrupt. That's his problem, not the city's per se. I do have a worry about it, but I'm not going to vote no because of someone who's made a business decision. So I do have a question, and it's very personal because it's a statue I donated to the city. The bird in front of Colorado, in front of the hotel now. What are we going to do with that? I'll take it from the city, too.
We will keep the bird where it is. It's not going
No,
anywhere.
no, it won't affect my vote, but it has to go somewhere.
You could give
It has to
Tom
go
the
somewhere.
bird.
I'd just like to know where.
We will find a great location for it if it doesn't fit where it currently is, but all the public art that's currently there, we're going to keep it.
So you are for public art, that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
District at least. Okay, will you call the roll, Suzanne?
Board Member Breckbill?
Yes.
Board Member Lewis?
Yes.
Chair Campenny?
Yes,
And Board Member Moser?
Yes.
passes 4-0. Thank you. Okay. Item 3, do you want, are we all waiting for item 3, or do you? If you could take it outside, please, so we can move along. Okay. If we can, 101 South Colorado Restaurant, rezone to urban plan, unit development and site approval. Chris? Oh, you're going to take that, Jody? Okay.
Good evening, board members. For the record, my name is Jody Kugler, Director of Development. Tonight, I'll be presenting agenda item number 3 for an urban planned unit development rezone petition and site plan for 101 South Colorado Avenue Restaurant. In accordance with the public notice requirements outlined in Section 11.02.05 of the Land Development Code, the applicant mailed 33 letters to the adjacent property owners located within 300 feet of the subject parcel, providing details of the requested development and the date and time of tonight's meeting. Additionally, a sign was posted on the property along South Colorado Avenue with the same information. The .23 acre developed property is situated on the east side of South Colorado Avenue, north of Southeast Seminole Street, and directly east of the St. Lucie River. This property is also situated in the city's of Stuart Community Development Area, Redevelopment Area, and Urban District. The subject parcel is all surrounding properties are designated as a downtown redevelopment future land use. The downtown land use is applied to properties within the community redevelopment area and generally allows for commercial, low-density residential, office, public lodging, public facilities, and mixed-use developments. The subject parcel and the properties to the north and south are designated by the Urban Waterfront Zoning District. The property to the west is designated Urban Center. The applicant is proposing or requesting a planned unit development, urban planned unit development, and the purpose of that is to deviate from the parking requirements and other requirements of standards of zoning districts. The applicant has made the following requests. The relief is being sought through the urban planned unit development from the following criteria. They're requesting the development director to waive the fee into the payment in lieu of parking program for the removal of it's actually just one on-site parking space along South Colorado Avenue. The second request is requesting a waiver to allow additional curb cut for access to the dumpster and ADA spaces. And the third request is requesting a waiver for the off-site valet parking lot that exceeds the required maximum 500 feet distance from the principal use and the location. The first waiver is to waive the pilot program. As you can see, it's actually just one parking space. So if you, on South Colorado. The second waiver is to allow for the secondary access. They already have an existing access on Southeast Seminole Street, and when the parking space is removed off of South Colorado, that will be the access for the dumpster and ADA, and also to turn around to go onto Southeast Seminole Street. And the third request is to allow for the off-site valet parking lot exceeds the maximum 500 feet distance requirement. The distance is measured from the entrance from the property of the principal use and the off-site parking lot entrance location. As you can see in the rendering, that the proposed location in yellow is the restaurant, and the proposed valet parking area is in Blue Star, and it's approximately 675 feet. The valet parking lot layout is located at, I'm sorry, hold on one second. Located at 111 South Osceola Avenue. The .87 acre property was constructed in 1985 and consists of an existing 8,232 square foot, two-story professional office and medical building. Currently, the property has a downtown future land use designation and urban center zoning district designation, and is situated within the boundaries of the City of Stewart's community redevelopment area. A parking analysis prepared by Susan O'Rourke with O'Rourke Engineering and Planning dated September 9, 2022 indicates there is significant parking within the area to accommodate weekday demand. Peak weekend demand will be accommodated through a lease agreement at 111 South Osceola Avenue to operate the valet service and provide spaces on Friday and Saturday evenings. For the rest of the days, the available parking in the surrounding downtown area would be able to accommodate the proposed restaurant. The city's traffic consultant, Kimberly Horn, reviewed the parking analysis and provided a letter dated July 12, 2023, saying there's significant parking. This is the proposed development plan. The original property was developed in 1995 and consists of an existing 931 square foot single-family home with an attached 252 square feet office space. And I apologize, it was developed in 1950. The applicant will be utilizing the existing structure and adding a covered dining areas to create a 150-seat waterfront restaurant capturing the view of the St. Lucie River. The associated site improvements include landscaping, pedestrian connections, refuge collection, stormwater and utility improvements, public art installation, and on-site lighting. The project will be served by site grading that directs stormwater to provide proposed drainage structures located within the southeast Seminole Street right-of-way. These are the proposed elevations. The first one is your north view elevation, which is located along South Colorado Avenue. And the east view elevation is the view from the St. Lucie River. The applicant provided a conceptual rendering of the public art. However, the public art requires a separate minor conditional use application and will be approved by this board. 33 public notice letters were mailed to the property owners located within 300 feet of the subject property. The city received 16 letters in favor of the project. Staff is recommending this petition complies with the standard of review outlined in Land Development Section Code 2.07.00 in the Urban Plan Unit Development, and has found to be consistent with the goals and objectives and policies of the City of Stewart Comprehensive Plan. Staff recommends the Community Development Board forward a recommendation to the City Commission for approval for the Urban Plan Unit Development rezone petition with the concurrent site plan, with the condition that the applicant shall execute a riparian easement for the boardwalk in exchange for the parking waiver components for the development with a parking exemption. This concludes staff's presentation.
Any questions, Mark?
Yes, I've got a first question I have for staff is if this project is built and they lose their valet parking contract, is their CO pulled? Because they don't have any parking at all.
I'm going to have the applicant, Mike McCarty, address this comment.
And I'll just quickly also respond that we have had other projects in the city of Stewart, including the entire Harborage Condominium Association, that had parking as a contingency of their approval. And the response is that if you don't have the parking, you essentially can't operate, so we wouldn't pull their CO that day. It'd be more likely that they would get code enforced and have to either provide the parking somewhere else or adjust the number of patrons that were there to fit whatever parking they had. There's also another issue that's probably not on this agenda item that will come up, and that is in 2012, all of the properties on Seminole Street from Colorado Avenue to 2nd Street were not in the parking exempt district. And the city commission approached them and asked them to join the parking exempt district. In exchange for that, they had to give up their riparian rights and allow a public boardwalk to be extended behind their property that was paid for by the Florida Inland Navigation District. There are plans at the city to extend that boardwalk past Colorado, but we do not have the riparian rights to this particular property. So one of the proposals that's going to be presented to the city commission in this project is going to be, does the city commission want to expand the parking exempt area of downtown as they did in 2012 to add that one parcel, the Schombeck parcel? It hasn't happened yet, it doesn't exist, but I'll mention it to you just so you know that that's a potential out there. If you look at the parking exempt district, it goes all the way to Colorado Avenue, and all of the properties on the, I guess, east side of Colorado Avenue, like when Mr. Braid used to own the Colorado Inn, he applied and got them put in the parking exempt. The Sneaky Tiki restaurant that is in there was because it was parking exempt. And then as you go down the street, the steak restaurant that's now there, when it was Gusto's or whatever, it was allowed to be there because it too was in the parking exempt. The only reason the Schombeck property wasn't put in this parking exempt is because it had been a therapy office for 30 years and it never came up when they did the parking exempt. And then when they did the Florida Inland Navigation District boardwalk issue, the funding only went to Colorado Avenue, so nobody approached it at that point.
Okay.
But we would in fact code enforce it until it was in compliance.
Okay. Second question I had is, I assume the restaurant, based on what I've seen, is going to have roughly 150 seats, which will get it a liquor license. I know that Mike mentioned that that this is not in the district for purposes of parking exemption, but we have a different district for liquor licenses. Only a certain percentage of that area can be utilized with a bar. And I know not too long ago, we were at the max on that. We actually auctioned off the last, or raffled off, or whatever they do, the last two, and they ultimately went to the Cafe Martier. So my question is, will this restaurant be allowed to have a liquor license or no?
So a restaurant this size would obtain a liquor license for 4COP SRX, which has to derive 51% of food. So it would be allowed.
No, I understand that, but we have a different city ordinance that restricts the amount of, because we didn't want downtown to become a entertainment district.
Yeah, right, a bar district.
A bar district, so we have a limit on that.
And we did an auction about 6 years ago?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so, are you going to opine?
I'm sorry. Kunal Gandhi Sadas, CRA Director. The boundary that you're talking about, this property is outside that boundary. So it will not be part of the 30%, I believe, restriction that we have in downtown. So this would be outside of that.
Even after the expansion of that, that was done in, like I say, 6, 8, 10 years ago, where I know we expanded, I think, to the harbor shops down there on the other side of Oak and Ember, but we didn't extend.
No, this is outside of that.
Okay.
It's right outside of that boundary.
She's the expert.
Yeah?
Okay, any other questions, Mark?
No.
No questions for staff.
I just want to clarify for the public, we did meet earlier today, and if either the city or the developer could comment, you're taking the existing building and you're basically reusing it, repurposing it. This isn't a tear down and a new construction, is that correct?
If you leave it to, let staff answer, and then we can have
Okay.
Mike do his presentation. I think it's easier that way.
Sure.
Yes, that is correct. They will be repurposing the existing office building today.
Okay, thank you.
That's it? I just want to say that I like I don't think I've seen it before, but I like it where you tell us you've gotten so many emails and so many emails are for or against the project. So since I hit you before, let me give you a compliment now. I think that's a very good addition to your report. Okay, Mike?
Good evening, Mike McCarty, McCarty and Associates, Land Planning and Design, office address 309 Southeast Osceola Street, Suite 104. Pleasure to be here this evening. Appreciate your time. Staff, I believe I gave you a PowerPoint. While staff is working on that, been working on this project since 2021, we started working on this project with Dr. Schambach. A lot of effort has gone into this project, a lot of analysis, a lot of design with our architect and our landscape architects to try to come to the city with a project that is attractive and benefits the community. You know, over the last many decades, the city has turned its back on our waterfront. And, you know, Seminole was treated as an ugly stepchild, an alley, if you will, service alley, and a lot of the city turned its back on the waterfront. And so this particular property was built in the 1950s with a residence, and we're very excited to reuse this property and bring forward a restaurant.
There we go, we got it on.
There we go. All right, thank you, appreciate your patience. All right, so, again, staff already presented that I have complied with the notification requirements. We sent out the required notices and posted the appropriate signage on the property. Here's my affidavit attesting to the notification notarized. This is the site plan. So, very simple, really. There's a significant element to the front of this property. We put a focal feature on the corner right here. It's an element that sidewalk that connects to the end of Colorado. So we're really excited about it. Took some finagling to make this all work in such a tight urban area. This is an infill redevelopment project. So here's a landscape plan rendered, shows how we're softening up the space. We're trying to preserve that large mango tree. There's a very large specimen mango tree that's right there. We're also incorporating a variety of landscape plantings around the perimeter to enhance the experience when dining along the waterfront. You'll also see that we are providing a significant buffer around the perimeter of these facilities here. This is a perspective from the waterfront looking onto the back of the property. You'll see the tiers, the outdoor seating. You know, here's a second level, and then here's the top level, if you will. And here are the connection points that will tie into the sidewalk that connects to the boardwalk. Here's a close-up perspective to show how that tiering works. Here's some seating along the outside exterior that's covered. And then this is a vantage point looking out onto the wide water. So the entire programming of this restaurant is to take advantage of what the city has turned its back to for so many years. Here you have some of our perspectives with regard to the front of the property. This is the valet drop-off queuing area, if you will. This is the corner of Seminole and Colorado, where we are going to be placing this focal feature. The specific art element that's required that staff indicated is a urban code. I believe we have to come back for a minor urban code conditional use, correct? Approval by yourselves.
That is correct.
That specific artwork will come back before you. Once we have an operator selected, we figured that part of the operator and the programming for that operator would also include the artwork to complement what they ultimately do as a theme within the restaurant itself. You can see some of our screening. We went above and beyond and provided some really unique screening. You'll see some of our landscaping and enhancements as well to the front and face of this property and to take advantage of public realm. This is a general floor plan, kind of gives you a perspective of the layout. Here's an elevation from the side, so you can see some of the tiering. This is tiering that's occurring down, and this is the wide water of the St. Lucie River over here. And then this is kind of a shot up along Colorado. So very attractive. We've taken great consideration to take into consideration human scale, and keep things within respect of human scale. These are some additional perspectives, which the color renderings are much more appealing, but you can see all the various architectural elements that are called out on here, meeting all the requirements of the code. And that pretty much wraps up my presentation. I would like to call forward Dr. Schambach. He's here, and allow him to introduce himself and his history. Thank you.
Good afternoon, CRB board members and staff. My name is Dr. Aaron Schambach. I'm the owner of 101 Colorado Avenue. I've grown up in Martin County. I'm actually a fourth generation Floridian. Went to Martin County High School, graduated in 1993. My family's owned this property since 1988. My mom was a therapist and had an office there until approximately 2020 when I took ownership over of the property. I have, like I said, grown up here, been in the water, been in the river. One of the things that makes Stewart so special is the water. I agree with Mike, downtown's sort of inward facing. This would be an unbelievable opportunity for the public to get access to unbelievable wide water views. I'm very excited about the project. I've spent a tremendous amount of time. I have no intention of selling the property. You can see my 3 kids here. They're going to be the next owners. And they are also very excited sitting through a meeting like this. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, they look it.
I can address any questions that you may have, but I'm very excited, and I think it's a great use for this property.
Any questions?
Good question. Maybe a little early, type of food?
We're looking for, I have no intention of operating the restaurant. I have enough on my hands as a dentist with a large practice. So I'm going to hire a high-end, we're going for more of a high-end restaurant, a seasoned veteran operator. We have multiple lined up already.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Mike McCarty. So appreciate your time. The basic, in summary of what we're here to request is a waiver of the parking required on site per the code. We have facilitated a lease agreement for the 72 spaces right down the road as indicated by staff. That's just over 600 feet down the road. The reason why we
Mike, how long is that lease for?
it's an annual lease. It's an annual lease, as most of the leases, just like the FEC lease with all the parking along FEC, the harborage. It's customary for leases of this nature to be 12-month periods. We recognize that is something we'll have to maintain and keep in place, and if we don't, then that's at our own risk. You know, truthfully, the larger issue is that the city needs to implement a program for parking, okay? We can say that there's not a parking issue, but if we want our city to progress, and for sites such as this, where there's a residence from the 1950s that is appropriate to be redeveloped into such a use that's being proposed today, we have to plan for long-range parking, okay? So, as you indicated, we're willing to provide to the city riparian rights for the extension of the boardwalk along the frontage, as the previous program suggested, west of Colorado. And so that's the public benefit for the extension of that boardwalk. So if you have any other questions.
Yeah, so talk
Yes,
to
sir.
me, so talk to me about, once the boardwalk goes in, how's that going to interface with your restaurant itself?
Sure. So currently, we are not proposing any connections directly to that boardwalk as far as a direct connection from our upland. We believe the connection point at the end of Colorado is adequate to serve as the community's connection to then patron our establishment. However, we do have and reserve the right to potentially put a dock out that could extend beyond that boardwalk. Yes, sir.
You're asking for riparian rights, or you already have them?
We already have the riparian rights, but the agreement that we would be willing to, that we're offering with the city would allow the city to construct across that, but we still reserve the right to extend a dock beyond.
But you are not reserving the right to, as we have seen in the past in some places, sell liquor and then pass it over the fence on the boardwalk.
No,
So
sir.
We're not going to do that, are we?
No, sir, we are not.
Right. And so how many parking spaces do you need?
We're required 34, or
So you-
maybe 38 spaces. Yes,
So
sir.
This agreement lets you over that.
That's correct. That's correct.
And if you don't know it, maybe Jody does. How much is that one space if you had to pay it the pileup fee?
So there is a table in the code that requires them to do a survey with the 4 adjacent properties based on the property value. I don't have that figure.
And could we, because I'm toying with the idea of making one of the recommendations, that they have to pay for that pileup. But if it says $30,000, I don't think that's fair. But is there a way we can do it on a sliding scale if we wanted to? Lee, do you want to answer that as our city attorney?
I'm not familiar with it either. I'd have to look it up and get back to you on it. Obviously, I'm not as familiar with the code since I've only been here a few weeks as well.
Okay.
All right.
Where's Marcel when you need him?
Isn't that number 11,000? I think we reduced it to 11,000 per parking spot, right?
I had thought it was 10 or 10.
I think it's 11,000. It used to be 17. I think we reduced it to 11. So we got 11,000 per parking place that you're short. So we're 35 parking places short.
But we're taking away one, and the parking spaces are only as good as that lease, which is not quite the same.
Right. And so really, we're approving a project with no parking spaces.
We're approving a parking with leased parking, but it's not long-term lease.
Well, and just in general, since I'm one of the 2 people that leases most of the parking in downtown, that market is getting crazy. I mean, it's $2,000 a month for, nights and weekends. So,
Well, any
Yeah.
other questions for Mike? None?
Appreciate it.
Okay, so let's take public comment. Edward Lucini. I hope I pronounced that right.
okay.
I didn't see the T.
Yes, sir. Well, to begin with, let me just
state that we have right now 12 restaurants and bars within about a quarter of a mile radius of this location. In fact, there are 5 within 2 blocks. So I leave it to you to decide whether we really need a 13th restaurant with a bar. But what I do want to focus on is the parking. Now, as you heard, the lot is 600 feet from the location. However, to get there, you have to drive about 400 yards. That's a quarter of a mile. That's because of all the one-way streets and the entrance into the driveway. If you look at the seating capacity and you assume 2.5 adults per car, that's going to be 60 cars for each seating, and I'm assuming 2 seatings, which is about equivalent to what they have at Oak and Embers, which also seats 150 patrons. So if you do the modeling, and I've done some analysis that I've included in your package, I don't have time to go over it here, it will take about a minute for every car to be parked and then passed on to the next valet. And I'm assuming 2 valets. You could add a 3rd valet, but it won't do much to avoid the congestion. So how much is congestion? The driver, the valet, has to drive down Seminole, one-way street. He turns right on another one-way street, which is Detroit, goes to a stop sign, gets to Osceola, turns right again, and then eventually pulls into the parking lot. That is hardly something that can be done in a minute. It's going to take 2 minutes. I drove it. It took over 2 minutes. If you then assume that there are 60 cars coming and going when you change from the first seating to the second seating, you have the makings of an incredible amount of congestion. In fact, if you go through the modeling of that, between the hours of 7:30 and 8:30, with 60 cars leaving and 60 cars arriving, and assuming a 30% overlap, that is that there are 30% of the diners from the first seating aren't ready to leave quite yet. If you assume a 30% overlap, then you have to have parking for 78 cars. The actual number of spaces, including handicap spaces in that lot, and if you block off 2 driveways during that period of time, is a total of 50 spaces. So to get 78 cars into 50 spaces, you have to stack cars. Stacking cars is what you do when you get onto a ferry boat, but the way it works is you get on and get off in the same sequence. That's not the way a parking lot works. So if you look at any scenario, no matter how many valets there are, between 5:30 when the restaurant would open and 10:30 when the restaurant would close, 120 cars will arrive.
Thank you, sir.
And 120 cars will depart. I suggest that there will be enough congestion at 4 intersections and a potential backup of 60 cars on Colorado.
Thank you. Chip Hazard.
Hi, and thanks. My name's Chip Hazard, and I live at 57 Southeast Seminole with my wife Susan. Upon review of the Land Development Code, which I spent a lot of time doing, there's lots of reasons not to approve this request, especially the 3rd waiver. The Land Development Code clearly states that its purpose is to promote the general welfare, protect the character, and maintain stability of residences from developments. Southeast Seminole Street from Colorado to Detroit is east of Dixie Highway. It's the only residential neighborhood left in downtown Stuart. This neighborhood deserves the same equal consideration of its uniqueness and the benefit to the character of downtown Stuart as any other of your designated neighborhoods. It deserves to be preserved as residential. We in the neighborhood are already exposed. We're basically a parking lot for downtown Stuart as it is, with all the related noise, litter, and misbehavior that goes on. We are already subject to entire weekends of RVs running their parking in that lot that's proposed valet at 111 Osceola, running their generators 24 hours a day, 4 times a year when downtown Stuart has their art and craft festivals, which I'm sure is violating noise ordinances. And as you well remember, just last year, the City Commission granted the request to build the 2 4-story apartment buildings at Detroit and East Ocean, and they provided relief to those developers that they don't have nearly enough parking for the residents that are proposed there. We're pretty sure that all of that overflow parking is going to wind up right in front of our house. The other thing is this board has to make it incumbent upon this applicant to show that there's a quote in the code that says all aspects of a UPUD are under unified control, and that includes the parking area. And I didn't hear that that's going to happen. They have an annual lease. So in summary, the introduction of the valet parking in our neighborhood is not only unacceptable, but it's outside of the stated purpose and intent of the code. And I'd ask each of you to walk down Seminole Street and see for yourselves what it looks like. We're not just parcels on a zoning map, we're a neighborhood there. Like directly across from where we live, there's a 20-foot wide street, there's a sidewalk, and there's a grassed island, and there's that parking lot.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bruce Laraway.
Hello.
Hello, Bruce.
Haven't been here in a while. I live same place Chip does, and it's ludicrous what they're trying to do. Number one, that property is there's not enough room on that lot for a restaurant and an office. Isn't the office? Okay. Well, a restaurant and the parking that goes along with the whole corner, taking up the whole corner and going down the street. It's a one-way street. It narrows at 2 places where you can't get 2 cars through it. And that's about where they're gonna enter into the parking lot they wanna use. It doesn't make any sense at all. I think that this is not thought out. The ground, they don't have enough ground to do this kind of thing, or any kind of thing for that matter, because of where it sits. So I would like to see some plans that may be different, but they certainly can't drive down Seminole Street and park cars and drive down Seminole Street and park cars. It just won't work. People are gonna get killed there. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Is there anyone online?
Excuse me? Oh, I got a question.
No questions.
I want to make a statement.
Well, then come on up, then fill out a card and make a statement.
I have
Okay.
card in.
He was the one you called him early.
Oh, I did?
You remember you called him on the last agenda?
Oh, guess I must have put the card away, you too. Sorry.
Thank you. My name's Dennis Steelman. I own the property at 101 Southeast Seminole Street, directly across from the parking lot. It's currently operated by the Pain Management Clinic. Okay? Seminole Street is a one-way street that's serviced by 2 other one-way streets, Detroit and Denver. Seminole is very narrow. It's only 20 foot wide. It has parking on one side, 3 hours restricted parking, which is not enforced. The entrance to the River House condos is off of Seminole Street. But the way it was approved, it necessitates, unless the person is going to go around, come down through Confusion Corners, down Colorado, then down Seminole, that you make a left-hand turn from Denver and jig into the entranceway, approximately 15 foot on center line going in the wrong direction. And we observed many, many people going down either Detroit or Denver in the wrong direction just because they get confused. 101 Osceola Street is a pain management clinic. Pain management clinics have specific requirements for parking based on square footage. Therefore, they require 8,000 square foot pain management clinic requires 41 parking spaces reserved for that use alone. Therefore, none of those parking spaces, the 42 now, are available until the pain management closes. I personally counted the other day, at 6:30, there were 11 cars still in the parking lot there. Also, just bringing up one final thing, there is a requirement for dead-end streets in Stewart. I realize it's currently grandfathered, but a dead-end street, which Colorado is in front of this property, there's supposed to be a 90-foot diameter turnaround. The street is 30-foot wide. Will the grandfathering clause still prevail when the new facility is put into place? Thank you for your time.
Joseph Tao.
So I live on Seminole Street as well. And if you ever been to a restaurant where they have valet parking, what do the valets do? They run after the cars. So this is not going to be a parking lot right next to the restaurant. It's going to be whatever they quoted the distance. So they're going to be running down the street where I live, and they're going to be driving the cars fast because they have to get the cars out of the way that are going to be bunched up on neighbors. So common sense, this is not a good project, and everything that people stated before me makes it that I think the commission should decline this. From a safety point of view, for ruining the neighborhood that we live in, that's not why I moved to Martin County. And now another thing is 18 Seminole Street is on that block. You wouldn't even know they're there. There's no valet parking, people find parking. They're just a regular neighbor. This is going to ruin the neighborhood with all the noise, the valets running down the street, because if you've ever been to valet parking, you've seen it. They run after the car. So they're going to run down the block, 2 blocks to get to the cars. And then they're going to be bunching up at the corner. So I think this is a bad decision.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Back to the board. Does anyone have any questions for staff or the applicant?
Question for staff? So are we recommending what exactly are we doing today? Are we recommending this to the CRA, or are we recommending, if once we approve this?
commission.
To the commission, okay, so it's
By
got to
the
go
way,
for
there are
another.
20, if you saw, there are 24 conditions.
Conditions,
already.
yeah.
We could add more.
For discussion, does somebody need to make a motion, though?
If you wish to make a motion.
Do we, for
We usually, this board, we usually make a motion for discussion.
for purposes of discussion, I'm going to make a motion so we can put this on the table. We can
Okay,
talk
can I
about
get a
this.
second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Okay, do you want to continue, Chris?
Yes. Yeah, so, and I just have some comments, and Mike, I don't know if you want to have a chance to address some of the
Why
concerns.
don't you make all your comments and then Mike can address.
Exactly, and so I just want, some of the comments that you heard today. My issues with this, and those that are here from the area know that I've been on this board for a while, I generally try not to, my history is not approving things on Seminole. I agree that there's a parking issue there. The condo that was put up in place, I did not vote for that. Because I listened to the community, I knew, I was worried about the parking, the traffic in the area, and every so often we get things in the area, and I generally will go ahead in this situation and err on the side of the community. This situation too, I have a little bit of pause on this in full transparency. I had an opportunity to speak with Mr. McCarty. I had an opportunity to speak with Dr. Schambeck as well. I want everybody here to be aware of that. I know these individuals. I know Dr. Schambeck. I like the fact that it's a local trying to put a business here downtown. It's not somebody coming from out of town, somebody who's been here for a while. I went to high school with him.
Well, you're getting old, Chris.
I'm getting old. I am getting old. But it is something where, I like that. I like the idea of locals coming and starting businesses, especially downtown. We are downtown. It is the heartbeat of Stewart, of what we want to be. Our board is tasked with the redevelopment of downtown, for the good and the bad. We try to take, what the community says and try to go along with that. When I heard about my biggest issue is the parking and the traffic. Initially, the bank seemed like a solution to me because of the parking. I understand they didn't have any on site. They had a lease in order to do this. I do have some concerns with the way, and I do have some agreements with the way that the valet would work. I can see the valet people at the restaurant running up and down that street. It's not a big street, especially on busy nights, and what that would mean. Now, I don't know how that's going to play out. I don't know if it's going to be as bad as we think or better than we think. I do, at the same time, I don't want to hold off development, hold off locals from, doing businesses because of this parking issue that I agree with Mr. McCarty that the city's going to have to address at some point in time. It is an issue, especially if we're talking about making downtown the way we want to be. I understand that it's loud. I understand that there's, families that have been there for years and generations, and that's what I'm sympathetic with. I am sympathetic with that. At the same time, I have to balance that as we are downtown. I'm not really sure which way I'm going yet, just to be honest with you, but I wanted my opinions to be known and what my thoughts were before moving forward.
Okay. Bonnie?
I do have a question. Does Oak and Ember have a valet agreement?
Yes.
They do?
Yes.
And where are they?
They
providing-
have they do have an agreement. Do you want to say anything?
I don't.
They have an agreement, and they have leased, I believe, parking throughout the downtown area from different places that are closed in the evening, and that's what they use.
Okay.
I don't know how many spaces there are, but apparently doesn't seem to be much of a problem.
I asked that because I am sympathetic to the concerns with traffic, and I do know, other restaurants around Stewart that do have valet parking. It does get a little busy, but I will say that one seems to be well managed. I don't notice any issues there during lunch and dinner times. I just say that because this may be an unpopular opinion. I'm an urban designer, and I work in cities all over the country as a consultant. I don't work in Martin County or Stewart, but parking, it doesn't matter if the town is 2,000 people or 2 million people. Everyone is always concerned about parking. It's a concern everywhere I go. And what I've noticed here as a resident in Stewart is that I'm not sure we do have a parking issue. I think we have a walkability issue. I think that folks may not feel comfortable walking, or the environment doesn't feel comfortable because there's not enough shade or there's not enough lighting. I never have issues parking because I'm willing to walk further, and I wonder if every single patron of this restaurant is going to want to valet their car, or if they're fine parking somewhere and walking like the rest of folks downtown do. So that's where I'll be basing my decision today.
Mike, is there any way that the drop-off can be redesigned so that it leaves it on, I guess, Osceola? Or take it out of Seminole completely and leave it on Colorado going the other way, maybe? I don't know, I'm just asking.
Unfortunately, I understand.
I think it's almost impossible.
It's
but I'm asking the
impossible.
question.
It's based on the turning radius requirements of Public Works and their waste disposal truck. We had to run auto turn. We had to do some adjusting to that site in order to make those turning radiuses work. Not only that, but then we also have to accommodate fire, and we had fire review it, and we have to get the Quinn truck in and their booms and anyway. So right now, as designed, it complies. It's unfortunate, but it's where we are. I would rather not have to have a dumpster on this small site. One would hope that we could put it within the public right-of-way, but anyways, that's a separate
That's a
whole
separate issue.
discussion.
You can talk about that at a
Right.
separate time.
So, I'm here tonight because we've accommodated all of those facilities. We comply with all those facilities. I totally understand the perspective of our community and some of the people that have spoke tonight. I understand that. They have concerns with the parking. They have concerns with the traffic. The analysis shows that peak time during Friday and peak time during Saturday are the two time frames in which there is not public parking available. And so we've come up with a solution. And not only is that solution adequate, but it's far more than what we would be required to park. we recognize from an operational standpoint that if we do not have that lease, that we have to figure out how we accommodate that parking, or else the city will violate us with code enforcement. Now, I just also want to bring to your attention, though, that there's valet operations occurring everywhere, right? We've got Sailor's Return that's on a valet situation. You and I spoke, Mark. You lease part of your lot that is all the way over on Joan Jefferson across US Highway 1. So, and that is successful. Sailor's Return is a successful operation. So valet does work. It has to be successful, or else you don't have a successful restaurant. So, you know, we're going to spend millions of dollars in improvements to this property, putting an operator in there. And so, you know, that's what it takes, is proper management. So,
Okay, Mike.
you know, I appreciate it. If you have any additional comments.
No, not for you, but I'll make a comment. Not to you, but to my board members before we move forward. You know, parking is always going to be a problem in the downtown area, always. And if you live in the downtown area, you have to expect that there will be traffic. That's what a downtown area is all about. That's what we in Stewart have been trying to create for the last 30 years, since Joan Jefferson was mayor. We have accomplished that. Do I think we could tear down that house and put up an apartment building? Will that make it any better? I don't think so. I think if we want to have a district where people come and have a place where there are restaurants, and I'm gonna put on a couple of conditions in addition, if the board wishes. And one of them's gonna be that the valet has to operate 7 days a week. Well, I'm not gonna say 7 days a week, whenever the restaurant is open, the valet has to operate in the evening. I'm not gonna put it, they do lunch, everyone does what they can, I think that's not reasonable. But if they have a dinner service, they need a valet. The second thing I'm gonna do, because I am very sensitive to the noise issue, I would like to put a condition on that says no outdoor music. They have an indoor space, if they wanna use music, great, but no outdoor music, because I think that does disturb neighbors. And I don't think you need that to have a successful restaurant, since 51% of the money has to come from food.
Outdoor live music or outdoor music, period?
Outdoor music, period. You crank up the speakers, and it really doesn't matter much if it's live or not. I live, as the crow flies, about a half a mile from Sailor's Return. When Sailor's Return cranks up on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I have to close all my windows. I know what it's like. So if we're going to have this kind of stuff, I don't want to impose it on others. And I felt very bad for the other people, because they're right. Not only Sailor's Return do they hear, they also hear Terra Firmata. And, you know, it's great if you're at Terra Firmata, but if you're sitting in your home, the last thing you want to hear is that constant. So I understand, so I would like to add those two conditions to it. I see that we have our reports, and the city has confirmed what the applicant has stated, correct?
That is correct, sir.
So I feel confident that moving forward, the city has done what they should do in this case. The commission at any time can change the rules of the game, but they haven't. So we can sit up here and say, well, we don't think this should happen or that should happen, but at the end of the day, this is allowed under our code, and so I'm not going to stop it from happening. If it's allowed under the code, I'm going to try to put things in place and we have now 26, is it? Conditions added to this application. So, do we have, Mark?
Gentlemen, could I make a few comments, because I didn't get a chance? A couple things. One, I disagree, it's not allowed under the code. Code requires parking, because that's not in a parking exempt area. Second of all, I have a problem with one of the conditions. Why should this restaurant be subject to a condition that no other restaurant is subject to, just because we don't want noise for this one? And so I think, I like this project. I mean, I like the restaurant, I like it's local, and I like all, but it can't be parked. And I live downtown. I'm across the street from the parking lot you're talking about at the pain clinic. There are people in there all the time, day and night, and you can't park it. And valet from that distance, I give Mike credit, yeah, I've got valet up at the north end, but, I mean, at the outside of town, but, they're coming under the bridge. It's only about 400 yards, so it's pretty quick. But my point is, we're going to do what the city commission and boards before us have done. We're going to approve a project that we know doesn't have enough parking, and then we're going to come down the road and do the same thing again and say, well, we don't have a parking problem, but we do, because there is no place to park this project. They have effectively had their property taken away from them as far as a restaurant use, because you can't park it. And so I just think that,
I don't think that's accurate, that either the property has been taken away from them because of the use, nor do I think it is this board's responsibility when we have the city and the applicant with two different studies confirming what's said. They have complied with what we are supposed to do. If you're saying, and it's a business decision, if people don't want to wait for the valet, what's going to happen, Mark? They're not going to go to the restaurant. How many of us have said, gee, I'm never going back to that place? It'll fail. And I think that's what the market is supposed to do. I don't think it's up to government to tell the market what to do.
but I think that the city has some responsibility under the codes to protect the homeowners and to protect the businesses, and you're right. They may not go there, but they may go and take parking somewhere else. In other words, they may not just leave. They may go park in one of the parking places that the other restaurant that's already been approved needs, or that somebody else, some business has been approved. So what I'm getting at is, when we approve something in excess of the parking, all we're doing is not just creating a problem for that property. We're creating a problem for every single property in that area.
It's not in excess of the parking, because they're providing 72 spaces. It's allowed in the code the way they're providing it.
But Tom, I do lease these. I do lease parking places. I know the other person that does it. Chuck Erie's the other one that leases the stuff to Oak and Ember. I can tell you that, what you're saying is, from a practical standpoint, now this is a business decision, and I agree, but we approve somebody and then they lose their parking. I think that's ridiculous. And the city to come in and then have to remove their CO and kick them out? I mean, and that's where we're going, because
Again, I think you're trying to do something that this board does not have the power to do.
Well,
And
we have the
I don't even know
power,
if the
right?
city commission does, but that's a different story. Do you want to say anything?
May I, Chairman? Thank you. Mike McCarty again, representing the applicant. I just happen to have a second option for parking. Mr. Gary.
I thought he rents the
I
Oak
just,
and
I
Ember.
just met with Mr. Gary, and their parking arrangement has canceled. So there's my backup.
That's right.
So what I would like, if I may propose something, is that your condition requiring the parking, that I have to demonstrate minimum parking of the 38 spaces by some means, or else we're in code violation. I'd be willing to accept that.
So,
well, Oak and Ember's now got a problem because they just lost all their parking.
They're exempt.
Yeah, I
They're
know.
exempt.
I know.
Remember, if I were 20 feet across the street, I'd be exempt.
so let me just say that, can we put one more condition on, that you will have a parking agreement with Chuck by the time it gets to the commission next
We already
meeting?
have a parking agreement. What I'm saying is that now I have a fallback, and we're willing to accept the condition where we have to demonstrate we have a lease for the required minimum of 38 spaces.
Okay, is that acceptable to the city?
Yes, that is what the staff did evaluate, and the traffic consultant, and their traffic consultant did the analysis.
Lee, how do you feel? Want to come up and tell me how you feel about it? Because now we're getting a little complicated.
I'm going to have to agree with the staff and the experts that they hired, that they said it meets, it's satisfactory to the staff. So based on what I'm hearing, I'm in agreement with the staff on it.
Okay, so we have adequate parking right now.
Now,
according to-
obviously, we just heard of a
We even have
secondary.
38 more spaces, you're saying, correct? So you're going to sign an agreement with Mr. Gary, is that correct?
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
We already have an agreement in place with 111 Osceola
Correct.
to utilize
I see.
72 spaces there. What I'm saying is that in the event we lose those 72 spaces, the applicant has to perform and demonstrate that we have the minimum 38 required per the code. I have a
Well,
second
then-
option. We're willing to.
You have a second option until Mr. Gary does something else with it because you're not paying him. So that's not an option unless you're going to tell me you're going to sign an agreement with him.
I don't need
I'm not saying you need it, I'm
72
just
and
asking.
his.
Okay, fine, so we can't count his. Hopefully, at some point, if you need it, you have it, but.
Correct.
I don't think we should, call that part of what we have. So, getting back to our 28 now, is it, Chris?
Yeah, so we still have the two you just added. Are we adding this condition, or you just?
No,
okay,
no, because
okay.
he doesn't have an agreement.
All right, so the two that we were adding to the motion was the valet has to operate whenever the restaurant's open and
For dining, for evening,
for evening, and you did mention that no outdoor music.
no outdoor music.
And before I add that to the motion, is there any comments from Dr. Schambeck or Ms. McCarty about that addition? Seeing no comments, I would like to add that to the motion.
I have a comment.
No, you had your chance. Sorry. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Are we ready to vote?
I am, if you are.
Okay, call the roll.
Board Member Breckville?
No.
Chair Campenny?
Yes.
Board Member Moser?
Yes.
Board Member Lewis?
Yes.
3-1 passes. Mark Breckville votes no. Okay, thank you. We have item,
Conflict of interest, he's friendly with the applicant?
no, please, sir.
Conflict of interest.
Start the meeting.
Mr. Laraway, we have a meeting, we're still meeting.
Talk to you after.